Make yourself comfortable, and we will get into Brain Tech Support Live. This morning, I don't have any coffee or tea. I'm just drinking water, but it's in one of these great mugs that makes me, this kind of enamel, speckled, kind of steel with whatever coating on the mugs. I'm explaining this for anybody who's listening later, but is not watching the mug I'm holding up. But these kind of mugs always remind me of something like camping or something like that. Blessed good morning. I feel like you see these in a camp store, although when I'm actually hiking or something, I don't think I've ever taken a mug like this with me. Everybody, as you're joining today to Brain Tech Support Live, if you have a busy brain, like a normal human, if you notice that a lot of things going on in the world are creating a lot of uncertainty for you, that gets us naturally trying to control things and fix things that often can lead to our brains throwing up intrusive thoughts for us to control when big uncertainties around us are really challenging for us or difficult for us to understand how to take action on. So have a lot of compassion for that. Have a lot of empathy for what you're navigating. And also invite the brain to sit down with you. It can worry about stuff if it wants. That doesn't mean you have to get caught up in it. If you're just joining Brain Tech Support Live for the first time, what we explore is how to be humans and do the things we value doing in life while having all of the experiences that our brains or the world around us can throw up, so that we can have experiences, not get wrapped up in the checking and controlling and avoiding, but instead grow and build the things that really matter to us. Samira, hello. Abhinav, Ariel, I saw you shared a message, but I don't know if you deleted it or the system deleted it. Feel free to share it again, or if you're going to rewrite it and share it again, go ahead. Stefan, hello. I hope you're doing well. Joshua, let's start with your question, because I had some other messages about a similar topic this week. You said, could you share what diet you think would be best for someone dealing with ANS dysfunctions? That would be something to talk about with a dietitian or a nutritionist. I don't know what ANS dysfunctions are. A lot of the time, the reason I bring this up is because I've seen a lot of people looking for diets lately and restrictive diets to try to control brain stuff. There may be, who knows, if you're not getting enough nutrients, just because you're potentially because of compulsions, avoiding lots of foods, then it might be useful to explore some kind of plan, again, with a nutritionist, with a registered dietitian, that's going to help you get the food that you need. Because we're humans that run on food and need food and energy. But if somebody is getting caught up in like a restrictive, controlling ritual every day where you're having to think through, "Oh, I've got to control this and I've got to avoid that and I can't eat this and I can't touch that because if I do, some bad thing will happen," and you're trying to find a magic control ritual to control thoughts and feelings, that's all that the practice of, whether we call it OCD or you want to call it eating disorder or you just want to call it magical thinking or whatever, that's a big part of what it relies on. So I'd say here, the skill we're exploring here, this is not to say that this is the skill or the thing that we must explore, but the skill we explore here is learning how to drop the controlling and magical rituals around human experiences. So we are not trying to get rid of thoughts and feelings. I would approach that as the problem. That's what we've been doing compulsions around for years and years. Instead, we're exploring how to have any thought or feeling. So I will never have some kind of magic special ritual, particularly around food, to try to control and manipulate thoughts and feelings. That very much just gets us into we're trying to do a hand washing ritual to clean away contamination. It's just instead of hand washing, we're trying to use food and find like the special magic food that will clean away the bad feeling. That's the stuff that gets us into this mess. Abhinav. Abhinav, you said, any advice on how do I keep my faith in prayers while not believing in magical thinking? One of the things that will often come up around faith is that switch that I'll often talk about, that switch from getting to giving. If we're approaching anything to do with faith as being about trying to get something, just like if we're taking that getting approach in other areas, that control approach, it's going to create a lot of struggle and suffering for us. So yeah, I'd be curious, what if the practice of faith, and so if it was the practice of prayers, was about what you want to give rather than trying to get or control something? Good morning, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. Joshua, you're welcome. Esperaj, good morning. I'm just reading through the chat. Everybody, I hope wherever you are in the world this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, I hope it's an easy day. Maybe one of the things we'll come back to repeatedly in the chat today is the idea of ease. Ease can seem strange when we're really struggling with mental health stuff, when we're really struggling with intrusive thoughts and all of that, and we think, I've got to go and do this really intense, hard thing to control and fix the stuff happening in my head. But in many ways, all our brains are doing is giving us this unpaid overtime work assignments. Like, you got to go do this, you got to go do this, you got to fix this, you got to control this. And so what if we actually are lazy and easy with our brains? So when our brains are throwing up these uncertainties and these things to control and looking for these really complex rituals, we just let it be easy. And so we're not going to do all of this extra unpaid overtime work. The brain wants to get us caught up in. It's going to throw up something and we're going to be like, yeah, maybe that is a thing that needs to be controlled. But I'm not going to be the one who controls it. Now, back into the questions. And maybe some will come up about ease and motive. You said, can you say something about the relationship between contamination OCD and relationship OCD? Yeah, and there's a short on YouTube, or you can find it over on Instagram, about what people will often refer to as retroactive jealousy. But maybe you could say it's a flavor of relationship OCD. But likewise, any of the different variations of relationship OCD, whether somebody's trying to judge whether they have this kind of right feeling of love, or they're judging some kind of quirk or quality or characteristic in their partner as being wrong or something they won't be able to live with, or if they're, again, judging themselves. Flavor of relationship OCD that comes up often is that people want to get certainty about recovery, or they want to get certainty they're not going to lose their mind, or they want to get certainty about whatever, their sexuality, their mental health, their past, because they may see themselves as having done something in the past. They're like, oh, if my partner ever found out about that, they would hate me. I can't be with them. Those are all just contamination OCD, right? They're judging something either in themselves currently, in their past, in their partner's past, or in their partner currently as being a contamination. There's this thing and it's going to mess up everything. So they either look for how can I clean it away, or I need to flip the table on the relationship, throw it all out and go find this perfect person who doesn't have this contamination. Or I need to go and clean myself and make myself this perfect person who doesn't have this contamination. The problem is, just like any classic contamination OCD, it does not matter how much you try to clean and get rid of that perceived wrong thing, the brain's just going to perceive something else as contaminated. So it can really help if you're struggling with relationship OCD to consider whatever that thing is that you're trying to fix. What if you actually thought of it as a contamination? And how would that change the way you're approaching things? And on to the next question, which I'm scrolling through the chat right now because I moved the chat and then now I can't see where the next question was. And so also, this is a commercial break where I'll remind everybody that the Mexico City workshop is happening next Saturday. So we're less than a week away. There are still spots available. So if you are interested in coming on out to the Mexico City workshop, the registration link is actually in the description to the live stream right now, which means that later, if you're listening to this, it'll be in the description below. Sobek said, I want to ask about what to do when stopping rumination is the compulsion I'm chasing, not rumination is the compulsion, but actually trying to stop it. I feel lost. Yeah, this is the reason. And so speaking of the Mexico City workshop, the reason we explore the exercise we're doing at the Mexico City workshop is because if we get focused on trying to subtract a thing, we're just doing classic contamination OCD cleaning compulsions again. Like, oh, there's this bad thing. So even if, and this comes up a lot, because a lot of people will latch onto this idea of, oh, I've got to perfectly get rid of rumination. But then they just start doing all of these compulsions to perfectly clean away rumination and like, oh, am I ruminating? Because they fear if I keep ruminating, I'm going to struggle, I'm going to relapse, etc. So it's really important to build mental health and fitness around things we want to grow and keep in our lives, not trying to clean away whatever thing we judge as bad. So yeah, if you're struggling with doing compulsions around trying to clean away something, that makes sense. That's what many compulsions are about. What if you switched it to actually what you want to grow and build in life? Eru Nanethiel said, thanks for all your help. Oh, you're welcome. My question is going to be regarding boredom and OCD. Is OCD my brain's attempt to cure boredom and give a way to me to find positive emotion in a boring situation? I wouldn't necessarily say it's about a positive emotion, but yeah, just like I was talking about earlier, the brain is only throwing up unpaid overtime tasks for us to do. The thing is, we've often engaged with that. So we come up to a period of time where we don't have something to do, and we've often been disliking the feeling of not having something to do, and we go and do something. We're like, I gotta fill this space, I've gotta control something. The brain, when we encounter some empty space and it throws up an intrusive thought, yeah, you can often see it. It helped me to see it as the brain is just giving me something to do right now, because it thinks I need stuff to do, because I always teach it that. I'm always chasing stuff to do. So one of the things that's so useful, I'll often give this exercise to coaching clients, is to explore chunks of time of doing nothing and learning how to simply be. Because for so many of us, the fears that we're afraid of are about losing ourselves, about not being ourselves. But then the moment we have a chance to be ourselves, we go, oh, this is boring. I've got to get rid of this. I've got to occupy my attention. What if we just celebrated being ourselves? If we're doing nothing and our goal is to be ourselves, we've achieved our goal. We're extremely successful. Stefan said, I self-sabotaged myself a bit and I find it hard to get back on my values path. I feel like I'm in a snowball effect. Any tips to get out of the snowball? It's a great thing to explore. I'll often use that metaphor of the path, and absolutely, we will usually ourselves choose to run off the path. Who knows, we see a rock over there and we're like, maybe there's a rare salamander or treasure under the rock, and we run over to look under the rock, and then we see another rock and we're like, ooh, maybe that one has the treasure. And then we go over there and then we see it, and then very quickly we're lost in the forest and we chose to run off. It's helpful, just like if we did find ourselves lost in the forest, to not punish ourselves by making ourselves more lost. If we notice we're lost in the forest, because we recognize, oh, I chose to step off the path back there, then we lightly step back on the path. There's no benefit to punishing ourselves by making ourselves more lost. So we step back on the path. And it can help to do that lightly. We're not doing it hating on ourselves. To step back on the path, also I would just look at the simple actions of our values. So if values seem too kind of large or important to bring into this moment, then it can really help to bring values down to a level of practice that we can do in any moment. Like for instance, I'll often talk about setting a value of having breakfast. So if I go off the path, tomorrow I'm going to make sure I have breakfast. And see that there's not some other special thing to do on the path. That is the path. And so maybe if I've been doing lots of compulsions, and so there's no food in the kitchen or something like that. So what I'll do today, say, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna step lightly back on the path. What can I do today that will make that easier tomorrow morning? And it might be, well, I'm gonna go and get food that I'll enjoy for breakfast. So then, yeah, rather than going, and I remember doing this multiple times, saying, okay, rather than doing the compulsions today, I'm actually going to leave I'm going to go and get groceries so that I have them for breakfast tomorrow. And eating breakfast is back on the path. So yeah, how can you make the step back on the path easy? And that can be the action today. I did have breakfast this morning too. It was good. I am going to quickly take a spin through the chat down below. And then we're going to pop back on up. Although also, Abhinav, thank you so much for the donation. I will take a moment to say thank you, share my gratitude. I appreciate it. So I think you're sharing a question here as a follow-up to the question you had. You said, however, isn't the practice of giving based on faith still making me believe in magic? If I believe certain kinds of prayers work, my brain brings up prayers wishing harm to my loved ones. And when I try to accept it, it seems unbearable. Yeah, so there, that idea of prayers work. So I wouldn't see that as what you want to give. So if the idea is that I'm going to use prayers to get things, you can see actually how the brain takes that logic and goes naturally. Because if you go, oh, if I'm thinking this, I'm going to get this, then the brain goes, okay, but then that means if you think this other thing, this is going to happen. And so you can see the brain is just being very logical. But what if prayer is about giving instead of trying to get stuff? Oh, Sam, I'm glad you found these tools useful. Thanks for stopping by the live. Ariel, I see you shared the message, a multi-part message down below. I will get to that shortly. Nondumiso, good afternoon to South Africa. CR, good morning. I hope, again, everybody's having an easy day. Kako Scar said, I feel that when I don't fight those obsessive and intrusive thoughts, I'm giving up and letting them know their content is real. That's why I feel depressed sometimes. Yeah, that belief there. Is that belief helpful to you? That thoughts mean something, or that their content is real if you don't argue with them? The metaphor I'll often share with people around that is starting to see your brain as like this random person talking in the street. And so of course, if you walk on past them and they want to have an argument with you, they're going to be, right? Because they're just insulting you. And so if you walk on, you know, they're saying like, oh, like, you like to make love to alligators. And then you're like, I'm going to the grocery store. And then they're going to be like, oh, so see, it's real. You're not even going to deny it. If you go back to argue, yeah, they're just going to keep doing it again and again and again and again. But yeah, where does that belief come from? That like thought, the content of thoughts are real? Because yeah, your thoughts are it's just random organ indigestion, right? The same way that if your stomach makes a noise, it doesn't mean something about your identity. It doesn't mean you're a gurgle in your stomach. Where does that come from that you believe that about just the random stuff up here? And is that useful to you? Because yeah, you can pick up more useful beliefs. Ice Barrage. It sounds like, it reminds me of like old school World of Warcraft, like a blizzard attack. Said, I'm unsure if this is the right forum for this kind of question, but I'm starting CBT ERP therapy and I've been feeling a bit out of it since my first session. This has caused friction with my significant other as I haven't wanted to see them or anyone for a few days. Is asking for space at this time reasonable? That is so vague though. I have no way of knowing. It could be really useful to talk about that with your therapist. Because if you're working on cutting out compulsions, what are the compulsions you're working on cutting out? Because if the compulsion is to avoid, if the compulsion is the judgments you're making about your partner, then it could be useful to talk to a therapist and be like, oh, hey, these are the compulsions we need to work on with ERP, because ERP is going to be about cutting out the compulsions. Mrs. Academic Comeback. So Mrs. Academic Comeback, you're asking about harm OCD. You said, I get episodes a lot. Any tips? There is a video on my channel about like harm OCD, particularly with knives. And the thing to look at is, what do we value doing? And to do those actions rather than having the focus on whether it's knives or harm. It's to start to look at, yeah, what do you want to give to other people? And what are the actions of giving that? Okay. Ariel, we'll get to your questions next. But Abhinav, thank you so much for another donation. I really appreciate it. That's really kind of you. You said here, your book and your content has been so impactful. Oh, just a final request. Oh, it doesn't have to be the final request. Could you maybe give me an example of a prayer about giving? How do I make it about giving? Just a random example would make it clear. I would recommend, though, you talk to a faith leader in your community. But yeah, a random prayer about giving, would be about, maybe expressing what you want to share with others, what you want to share for the world, and doing that not as a like, I'm sharing this because I want something, but sharing it as like, this is something I hope, this is something I wish, this is something that would be wonderful to see and that I care about. An expression of support rather than, hey, I'm telling you this right now so you make it happen for me. And so it might be useful, not necessarily to look right now for like some kind of specific example, but when you're praying to notice that getting or gaining idea. Are you sitting down to try to get something? You can also look at this in other interactions throughout life. Are you approaching an interaction to get something? Okay, if you're not going to try to get something, what is a different way to interact with that experience or that person? So yeah, thank you. Ariel said, I've been questioning my religion for the last 6 months. Oh, we have a heavy, is this because I have the religious painting behind me today? We have a lot of religion questions. Ariel said, I've been questioning my religion for the last 6 months. That's a very short amount of time to question your religion. He said, I wanted to stay in the religion, but I found relief from reading Arguments of Atheists. Also, I stopped dating because I want to find out what religion I really believe to avoid or hurting my partner if I choose him based on religion, but I ended up being an atheist. I'm currently stuck on a cycle, ruminating about my disbelief, reading internet opinions on religion, ruminating more about leaving the religion, and panicked, decided to stop reading internet opinions and doing religious stuff. It's stressing me out, feeling lonely and wanting a partner. I have to figure out my faith first before finding a partner. Started reading articles again to figure out what my faith is. Please, any advice on choosing religion? So I would back out from that. I don't know if you caught it earlier when I was talking about ROCD. This is one of the examples I mentioned, I need to get something right because if I get it wrong, it's going to mess up the relationship. So it could really help I would take a big step back from religion here because you can see how it's trying to get the clean, right control around religion because of the belief that's going to control the relationship. If you're working with a therapist or something like that, it could be great to explore why you have those beliefs about the relationship and what is the fear there if you get something wrong in the relationship. So this idea of like, I need to get this thing, faith, religion, clean, because if I don't, it's going to contaminate the relationship and the relationship's going to fall apart or we're going to get divorced or it's going to be painful. What is that future pain you're trying to control by getting religion or atheism or whatever right? And so, I'd be more curious about the relationship, but then also, as you've noticed, doing all of those compulsions around religion is only going to create more uncertainty. So also understanding whatever you do around faith, if you approach it with that idea, like I've got to get certainty about it, that's always going to create more uncertainty. Like just as whatever it is that we're chasing certainty around. That's just how our human brains are work so wonderfully. I am going to take a quick scroll on down and then pop back on into the chat. I hope everybody is being in the chat. I can see some chats going on back and forth. I haven't had a chance to read them, but I just hope everybody is being nice and wise. And not telling other people random things to do. I just saw somebody telling somebody a random thing to do. Oh, I hear a dog barking. Dog probably has some questions. Dogs deal with a lot of uncertainty. And like us, tend to just bark at it. Mrs. Academic Comeback, you said, I'm just so tired. These thoughts are things I did not know I'm even capable of imagining. We can have any thought or feeling. That's why I describe like great mental health and fitness is having any thought or feeling, while doing the actions we value. The brain, it's its job to just make up stuff. We run into problems when we start to attach meaning to that stuff and start to get involved in that stuff. One of the ways you could see the mind is like a pool of water. And there's constantly stuff popping up under that pool of water. There's like all sorts of fish and things and salamanders, rare salamanders. There's plants in there. And we are outside of the water. We can't totally see what's happening in the water, but we see things moving around. We attach a lot of meaning to it, maybe based on our fears. We see something move in the water, and we're like, oh, that could be a danger. The problems arise when we start to stick our hands in the water to try to get certainty, get control, to grab onto the things in our mind. Then we make that pool of water very muddy. It becomes even more difficult to see what's in there, which gets us grabbing around, even more terrified of what's in there, but trying to control it. And we create the chaos by trying to jump into the pool and grab onto the things. Instead, it's much more useful to just sit on your hands, hold your hands behind your back, stick your hands under your armpits, whatever, and not be grabbing and trying to control and hold on to things in the pool of our minds. If we are, we're generally going to get very wet, very muddy, and very upset. Luxart. So for me, the biggest challenge is that if I do something and get a bad thought, I have to redo it. But the theme of the thought changes every time, making it difficult to make a hierarchy for ERP. So this is useful for everybody working on a hierarchy for ERP. ERP is not about the topic of the thought. It is about the compulsion. So you see the compulsion is the same, to redo it. It is an external compulsion, right? You're doing something and then the contamination comes up, the thought. That external compulsion to redo the thing is the same. So when we're doing ERP, it's really useful to cut out compulsions as patterns. So what you've touched on there is one compulsion on the hierarchy. I will not redo an action anymore. I will do actions that I value with any thought or feeling. Yeah. Across the board, everybody, if you feel like you're struggling with a hierarchy, it's often the case that we're focusing on the topic rather than the compulsion. Cut out the compulsion across the board. One of the ways you can think of it is as an addiction. If you're struggling with an alcohol addiction, you don't go, okay, I'm gonna have this hierarchy of like, well, we're gonna cut out light beer, and then we're gonna cut out good beer, and then we're gonna cut out vodka, and then we're gonna cut out whiskey, and then because they're all different. They are not different. They are the same compulsion over and over and over again. And so go after the pattern of compulsion. Ariel, thank you so much for the donation. I really appreciate it. It's your third donation on a live stream too. Thank you. As a follow-up, you said, I also want to ask, I reread your book. It says, peer support can be a useful resource in our journey, but how do I find people struggling with the same issues? Is it like a group therapy or something? So what we do here is an example of peer support, right? So I share about my experience navigating these challenges. So we share about that as peers, navigating the experience of having a human brain. So this is an example. The Mental Fitness Discord server is an example of peer support where we're encouraged to share from our personal experience, right? Not going, hey, you should do this, you should do that. But hey, here's what worked well for me. When I encountered the similar issue, here is how I navigated that. So yeah, the Mental Fitness Discord server is an example of peer support. Now, both of these are online. If you want to connect with in-person peer support, yeah, there could be many groups in your area. And so there, one of the ways to look is look around on the internet. There often are organizations locally that help support peer support groups. Sometimes they're associated with hospitals or health centers, but often they'll also be started by individuals in your community. So yeah, looking online for a peer support group. They're not all the same. Yeah, maybe you've heard me talk about this before, the difference between a peer support group that's focused on a problem versus a peer support group that's focused on something we want to build. I would say that the peer support group focused on something we want to build is the more useful approach, right? So the difference between joining a support group for people who have experienced drowning and joining a swimming group for people who want to learn how to swim. Many of the people will have had similar experiences. But one is just going to talk about the problem, which could be useful sometimes. But the other one is going to focus on the skills that actually help us navigate the problem differently. So yeah, there are different types of peer support groups out there. So yeah, whatever you connect with, whether you're connecting here with us today or other online groups or in person, I hope you find it useful. Yeah, thank you for the donation. Ches said, I have discovered an interesting idea. Rumination is trying to control feelings. So my exposure is to feel more uncertain and let my thoughts sing their songs. It's okay to feel tough emotions. Absolutely. I like the idea of letting the thoughts sing. It is. It's like having a neighbor who just wants to sing every day, or having a dog outside that wants to bark, and we can let it. Mrs. Academic Comeback, you asked, is it normal to have borderline and OCD? Is that normal? It's very normal to check for reassurance about labels we can stick on ourselves. So I wouldn't find it that useful to go on some hunt for a particular label, because the actions, and so especially with both of the labels you mentioned, the actions are going to be giving time and energy to the things you value, instead of trying to control the uncertainty, the anxiety, the fear. So I approach things with the focus on where we want to go. What label somebody wants to stick on themselves along the way, doesn't really matter to me. I would just recommend picking labels that are actually useful to you, rather than going on some hunt for, just some random labels. David, hey, yeah, it does suck. It is tough to have thoughts, but I hope, as you're working on skills on the recovery journey, that goes easily. Stefan said, I find myself needing to do things always. Needing was in all caps. And if I waste time or just be mindless on purpose, my brain freaks out. What steps can I take to proactively chill? Yeah, you already see the steps. When the brain freaks out, I describe that as making the brain squirm. It really helped me to start to look for opportunities to do that. One of the practices that you'll find at Plum Village meditation centers, so meditation centers, Zen temples associated with the Plum Village tradition around the world, is that they will practice lazy day. And lazy day is one of the most challenging days for people going on a meditation retreat, let's say at Plum Village. And the reason being that people will often, if they're going to a Zen temple to do meditation, will think they're gonna go there and they're gonna do some really intense thing or important thing, or they're gonna levitate or be enlightened or something like that. Learn about the secrets, hidden away in sutras and so on. And then they get introduced to the fact that there's an entire day during the meditation retreat where there is no schedule. And it is probably the most challenging day for many people, because their brain will freak out. They'll make their brain squirm. And it's on purpose to explore this really important skill of learning how to simply be. And our brains are so caught up on this controlling habit energy of I've got to fix, I've got to control something. If we're not controlling something, we're in danger. And so it is very scary then when we practice doing nothing, when we practice enjoying. But it's a really great skill to explore. So at first you may not be, you may find it really challenging to do something like an entire lazy day. So at first I always recommend to people just picking some chunks of time. Maybe you set aside a morning in your week. You say, on those mornings, I will not schedule anything, or even for a chunk of time. I will not schedule anything. And also, I'm not then just going to get caught up scrolling on my phone or something. Because again, that's just filling the space. You may choose to do something, but make it about something you choose rather than just going along with the pressure from the brain. And make the brain squirm. Yeah. See the danger there that it's afraid of, that, oh no, if we're not doing something, we're failing, we're in danger, bad things are going to happen. And you can trust yourself to handle that. Oh, Sam, thank you for, and actually, Sam, I just got to your message and I just saw, you just donated. Oh, Sam, thank you so much for joining the live stream for the first time. Thank you for your first donation on a live stream. I'm so glad these tools have been helpful with your recovery adventures. I see you have a question here. She said, I have a question about mindfulness. Whenever I meditate, I don't know if I'm supposed to increase focus focusing heavily on being mindful, increased focus, attention, awareness, or decrease thinking? Yes, but also no. It could help to maybe approach meditation as and focus as kind of doing less. So even if we think of increasing focus, it can be useful to see that our natural state, right, if we're just being, is quite focused. We become unfocused because we're chasing after all of this other stuff. We're thinking like, should I do this? What about this? Do I need to fix this? Oh, I need to stop thinking. Can I control this? What about that thought? How should I move my leg right now? Should I fix this? Should I do whatever? Am I meditating right? Am I going to levitate later? Am I remembering the koan I'm supposed to be thinking about? And so on. So it creates a lot of work. Instead, to see it as being lazy. It can seem paradoxical, but most things will be as we explore meditation. If you want to increase focus, I'd say I find one of the most effective ways to increase focus is to be lazy. When I sit down to meditate, I'm just going to sit. And so if I'm sitting, already successful. I'm the one, so thinking again about that pool of water that is the mind, I'm the one that could start to disturb the pool of water by trying to do a thing. Trying to control something, trying to focus on something, trying to fix something. And so instead, I'm going to be lazy. So I'm going to sit with my body. I'm also going to sit with my mind and just rest. And whatever comes up, it can be there. I don't have to do anything with it. If there's a physical sensation that comes up, I'm not going to do anything with it. If there's a thought that comes up, I'm not going to do anything with it. If I have wandered off, that's too much work. I'm just going to go back to sitting. And so it could be fun to explore them with any kind of experience as you're meditating. What if you were just super, super, extremely lazy when you meditate, inside and outside? So thank you for sharing that great question and for joining us today and the donation. I really appreciate it. Timothy, you asked, have you ever read You Are Not Your Brain? No, I haven't. But that's true. Yay. Is it how to deal with magical thinking? Well, it's a compulsion. So it's about like dropping that compulsion. So in my book, so in You Are Not a Rock, I described it as the if X then Y pattern. And what we start to practice is if X then X. So if I see a thing, it's a thing. It doesn't mean all of this extra stuff. If I do a thing, I did a thing. It doesn't mean it's controlling all this extra stuff. So yeah, you could probably explore. There's usually lots of different compulsions people are doing that follow the magical thinking pattern, and most of them we see as normal. And so yeah, just understanding, looking for that if X then Y, like where do I think I'm controlling something? Like even one that's really common is people doing a lot of compulsions around their appearance, their bodies, their clothes, etc., believing that controls what other people are going to think about them. That's a magical thinking compulsion. You're trying to use some kind of magical compulsion, some kind of magical ritual to do mind control. Yeah, very few people can do mind control. Probably like none. And so Stefan, you asked on the boredom question, what do you do when you are bored? Nothing. Yeah, so we don't have to, so boredom is just another one of those unwanted feelings we'll try to fix. And so yeah, what I really look for is that pressure. Like if there was a feeling where I was going, oh, I should fix this right now, then I would purposely make the brain squirm. And so I really look for that. Like if the brain's like, oh, like you gotta do something right now, like pull out your phone, do some activity, do something productive, then I'll do this. And I remember when I first started practicing this, years ago, exploring this, I would do things like, say I was waiting somewhere, like waiting at a doctor's or something like that, and notice this pressure, like I've got to do something right now, or this is frustrating, especially if it was a wait that was unplanned. Like, oh, now I'm not going to get to go do that thing I needed to do. This is like messing up my day. To not then try to turn the boring time into productive time, but instead I would do things like the chair I was sitting on. I can remember doing things like really going like, no, like I'm not gonna do anything right now because there couldn't possibly be anything more amazing than sitting on this chair. This is the best chair ever. And just making the brain squirm. So yeah, you can really see the brain is this annoying kid you've got to babysit. And yeah, at this point you're like, oh, I'm done with this kid. If the kid complains that this is boring, I'm just gonna do the most boring things I can possibly find. I'm gonna like recite Klingon opera to this kid. We're not gonna do anything fun. And so you just dig it into the brain, just like we would. So we're doing with boredom what we would do with anxiety. I go, I don't need to fix this feeling. So yeah, have fun with it. Have fun liking chairs. Luna said sometimes Dharma talks trigger ROCD when they talk about renunciation, needing to leave people behind. But the practice helps me so much, so I don't want to stop engaging. Any advice on navigating? So usually though in a Dharma talk, if they're talking about renunciation, so for anybody that's not familiar, a Dharma talk is a talk on the Dharma. And I'm not explaining that much clearer. A Dharma talk is a type of talk that will usually happen at a Buddhist temple, probably each week. The similar like Christian equivalent, across many religions would be like a sermon. So a Dharma talk is like a talk about, although Dharma talks tend to be like specifically on usually some kind of philosophical idea in Buddhism, some kind of practice. But a very common type of Dharma talk is, I think it's called a way-seeking mind talk, which is where people talk about, so in particular monks or people who have taken vows, talk about the journey to taking the vows, which may often involve talking about like leaving some things, but not necessarily yet. Many traditions, monks get married now. But there's many things that get discussed during Dharma talks that we don't have to like attach a lot of meaning to or see as meaning something about us. So yeah, Luna, it can be useful to explore how to hear about topics. Just like somebody might explore, if somebody has a fear of losing their mind and they do compulsions around it, they might explore, watching whatever TV shows they want to watch. And if somebody pops up in the TV show that's, a psycho killer, and maybe they're just watching psycho killer TV shows, cop procedurals, that's okay. That is a thing they can see. I'm pointing at the television. That's a thing we can see on the television, and we don't have to attach meaning to ourselves. Yeah, you can hear about people who go off to live in a hut on a mountain and just eat rice and mustard greens, and that's okay. Motive, yeah. Have fun exploring, ROCD with that kind of concept of contamination in mind. Yeah, Jaded said how to grow things you want in life without turning it into fuel for mental illness. Yeah, I find it's about being really clear about the actions. And then when the brain goes, right, because even if it's something we want to grow, the brain will go, well, we got to do more of it. So having really concrete actions, just like we would with a garden. So again, that's why I really like the garden exercise, the metaphor of a garden. Because even if we decide something is a good action that grows it, like say watering the garden, if we water the garden constantly all day, we also destroy the garden. So we're going to be really clear about the concrete actions we'll do and then practice those. And so it goes in both directions, right? Because we could feel like, I don't feel like I want to go water the garden. I'm not going to do it. And the garden dies. Likewise, we go, I just love watering the garden. I'm going to do it all the time. And then also the garden dies. So being really clear about, hey, this plant just likes to get watered once a week. But it does want to be watered once a week. Any more than that is a problem. Any less than that is a problem. And so really identifying those actions. And then we just celebrate the action, right? So not did it, because also another reason the garden exercise is great is because, if you water a garden, it doesn't give you anything right away. We're going to do the practice because in the future, the garden will create and flourish and grow things that we'll really enjoy. But as we do the practice of caring for it, there will be no feedback. You really won't even be able to see if you're doing anything, especially if you're actually caring for it well. Right? We tend to only see if we're helping the garden if we're neglecting it. Right? The leaves start to dry up and wilt, and then we water it, and then it looks good. But that cycle is actually really stressful for the garden. And so, if we're doing things well, there won't be this like up and down and up and down. We won't have some kind of sense of control. We won't get reassurance that our actions are doing things. Mode of action. You asked, do you think detached mindfulness, my metacognitive therapist suggested it, can cure OCD, or will it just push it back and it'll come back again in the future? I don't know what detached mindfulness means. I also don't approach OCD as like a thing. So when you mentioned there, like that it'll push it back, because I would see OCD as just actions that we do inside and outside of our heads. So there's just, there's not a thing to push back. If we want to do the compulsions in the future, we could do them. That option is always available. But we can also not do them. Sophus said, do you have any videos or materials on hyper-focusing on stress symptoms, such as fatigue and overwhelm as compulsions? So just the thing I would look for there is not so specific. That's just like classic health anxiety compulsions, right? And then like checking, but you could also see it as like classic contamination, right? And then judging the stress symptoms as a contamination you've got to avoid because they'll cause some bad thing. So if you're like checking for fatigue and overwhelm, that's just the same as like checking for some kind of bad contamination. So I would take a step back from being so specific, because actually that hyper focus on like, it's got to be this specific topic, that's part of the same pattern. Across the board, we get into this like really trying to control and bring certainty to things and putting things in tiny little boxes. But that itself is the pattern that also gets us, taking physical experiences and putting them into tiny boxes and going, oh no, this feeling means my life's going to be messed up, or I'm going to have some terrible disease or something like that. So I would take a step back from that. See any video on contamination, health, anxiety, where we're judging and checking and controlling is going to be useful. And then, the thing is to like drop those compulsions, but it's going to be pretty broad, because it can really help to see that we're probably, just like I mentioned, the question itself is part of that pattern. We're probably practicing that pattern throughout life and see it as good, right? Like I'm really good at like, quickly, spotting the problems or categorizing things, or like people miss the things that I always catch and pick up, will often see those patterns of compulsions as useful in other areas. And then when the brain just logically applies it to things like stress, we get upset. So yeah, I would look really broadly at that pattern. Jake, thank you for being part of the membership channel. Yeah, I'll also mention, because I think it's kind of hard to find on YouTube the membership channel and the join. But basically you go to, so there is a membership channel here on YouTube where I create videos, and so we get into topics that members share, or just generally topics that I know are coming up in the community. If you want to join the membership channel, you can just go to youtube.com/everybodyhasabrain/join, and then it'll pop up. And there's a couple different levels. There's one level that's, if you just want to support the channel, and there is access to like some of the text posts. There's the community post channel on YouTube, and so there's member posts there. And then there's another level, which is where all the donut level, which is where all the videos are. I should say, like private members videos. This also, actually, it's worth mentioning because in 2 weeks, so the next live stream, there's going to be a special guest who has been on before on YouTube. We are going to explore, so it's Kelly Renee, because I know a lot of you have watched Kelly Renee's interview that we explored previously. I know so many people refer back to it because it was so useful to really have somebody else explaining their journey of recovery and the skills with cutting out compulsions. And what we're gonna do on the next live stream is, because I was looking at going to the IOCDF conference in the United States later this year, and I will not be traveling to the United States. And so instead, Kelly and I are going to do a talk about the topic that we were going to explore at the conference, which is life after recovery. So I think it's really important to see this stuff doesn't have to be this ongoing like thing to manage, but looking past the struggle with mental illness and how we just want to live our lives is really useful. So we're going to do that at the next live stream, so in 2 weeks. But as part of that, because we'll be doing an interview, I won't be able to keep an eye on the chat. So the chat, I believe this is possible. I still have to confirm. I've seen YouTube advertise this to me, but the chat will be just for members. So yeah, if you're on the membership channel, you'll be able to share questions and participate in that, but everybody will be able to access the interview with Kelly and the talk. So yeah, you can join the membership channel at youtube.com/everybodyhasabrain/join. And next time, we'll have a really interesting discussion on life after recovery. Chris, is it possible for OCD to manifest insensitivity to sound? And what is the best way to deal with that fear? It does. I experienced that. It 100% is really common. You'll often see it referred to as misophonia, is when we're doing compulsions around sounds. It can help to see that we get caught up in a lot of compulsions around it. So if we're trying to avoid the sounds, if we're trying to, when the sound comes up, doing compulsions around like the physical sensations, I found that for me, the sounds in particular would bring up a lot of uncomfortable physical sensations. So it was like the sounds that I would do compulsions around would create a kind of pain, like things were crossed and mixed up in the brain. So I like physically believed I needed to get away from that sound, or I would plan ahead and try to avoid and control things to prevent the sound. So it's approaching that stuff just like any kind of compulsion. And then working on it, there were a bunch of exercises I would do to practice doing actions I valued around the sounds that I would have cut out in the past, but also recognizing that wasn't just about the sound, it was also about the physical sensation. So I was practicing doing things I valued while having those physical sensations and really making space for them. And yeah, so we can approach it just like so many other compulsions and uncomfortable experiences we tend to cut out. Not cut out, control. Uncomfortable experiences we tend to control. I am going to take a quick wander on through the chat here for a second, and then we'll pop back into the questions. And Chris, you're welcome. Yeah, have fun playing around with sounds. Daniel, yeah, you said I've experienced misophonia for ages and I always wonder why it comes about. Yeah, it is part of the same stuff. That's why I find it so important to approach these things really broadly as being about uncomfortable experiences, right? That's why the way I define compulsions, right? It's about coping, checking, and controlling around unwanted experiences. And so those unwanted experiences can be anything. Because remember, we're not defining it by what the unwanted experience is, but that's usually how we've approached things in mental health communities, where it's splitting people up based on what is the unwanted experience you're trying to control, rather than looking at that very broadly. And so that tends to be why we'll like pick up so many different labels, because we'll be like, well, for controlling this unwanted experience, I need this label. And for controlling this unwanted experience, well, that's considered this label. But they're all us trying to control unwanted, uncertain experiences, because we want to live our lives. That's uncertainty. So we get caught up in spending all of our time and energy just trying to get certainty about this stuff that we dislike. And that's not useful. So instead, we give our time and energy to actually doing things that are more useful in our lives. Sophus, so did you ever deal with fatigue and overwhelm, stress-like experiences, hyper-focus and ruminate on these and attribute fear to them? So Sophus, yeah. So Sophus, it could be useful. So when I was talking about that before, to look more broadly. So see here, right, that actually you asking the question twice in the chat, that's an example of what I mean by the pattern's going to be more broad. That like, I'm going to try to find a way to ask this and get at the answer. We're just applying the same patterns then to physical sensations in ourselves. And so, yeah, really looking broadly at those patterns to control stuff or to check on stuff. Yeah, what if you don't have to? What if you can trust yourself? You're like, okay, maybe I am going to experience some symptoms from stress. Maybe I am going to experience stress. And I trust myself to handle that and navigate that. Blessed. Said, with magical thinking, how do we know the thoughts don't mean something? How do we detach from believing them so that we don't feel the need to do compulsions? From practicing for so long, we've essentially taught our brains that the thoughts mean something, right? Because we always do the compulsions. The brain goes, okay, well, if you do the compulsion, then that must mean something. So when we cut it out, we don't first change the feeling. We've been teaching the brain for years that the thoughts mean something, that the feelings have this like special whatever, bad or, good. So now when we cut it out, we will 1000% feel like we're doing something dangerous and something illegal and something wrong to just not do the compulsions, but instead go and live our lives. And that, 100% is the practice. That's how we now change the belief. But yeah, trying to change the feeling first just creates more challenges. Sai said, I'm traveling to Cambodia solo. My squishy blob threw up a lot of uncertainty. What if it's not safe? They robbed me, they kidnapped me, but I brought along those with me, looking forward for a retreat too. Have a great time in Cambodia, Sai. That's great. You're bringing along the brain and all of the stuff it can throw up with you. Yeah, the trip can be about the things you really want to do. Enjoy the food. I've never been to Cambodia, but when I lived in Vancouver for a while, one of my favorite restaurants was a Cambodian restaurant. It was delicious. So enjoy. Thanks for sharing about that you're going on adventures. I think a lot of people, the question of going on like solo adventures comes up a lot. And it is so useful to explore because again, it's one of those ways we can think like, oh, well, I should be controlling all this stuff in my head. But we can really approach a trip, like a solo adventure, a vacation, moving homes, whatever. We can apply the same skills of identifying values, identifying actions that are gonna support those values, rather than getting caught up in all those compulsions. And the brain doesn't have to change what it's doing. Whatever it's throwing up, it can come along for the ride. Cameron, so is there any advice for someone who wants to be less judgmental, but has a bad habit of overanalyzing? Yeah, so even on the toolkit store, there's the non-judgment workout plan. There is a little course on non-judgment that I often give to people. I think it's like only $10, $12. So yeah, on the toolkit store, if you search on Google, toolkit store, non-judgment workout plan, and it breaks it up over 4 weeks. And it's just about coming up with exercises that give us an opportunity to practice non-judgment by essentially exposing ourselves to situations where we would typically judge and analyze. It's just a habit, it's a reflex. And for years, we've been really skilled. We're like professional judgers, right? In the professional league, like won the championship multiple years in a row. You are so good at judging. It is a superpower. And it's not that we say like, oh, judgment is this bad thing we must perfectly clean away. It's that we recognize we're professionals at judging. We have judgment superpowers. And we want to learn how to turn those superpowers on and off. Because judgment really is like laser vision. Like you see it there. Like you can analyze everything, but you'll burn up everything you care about in the process. So we want to learn how to turn off the judgment laser vision. And yeah, we do that by going into situations where we would usually judge and practicing different skills. And yeah, so it's totally about kind of like learning a new sport. Yeah, we're good at judging, but we can also be good at other things. Daniel, so regarding friendships, if you have a friend who continuously triggers you, how do you tackle that? It depends on what you mean by trigger. So maybe I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, because triggers, it's really about exploring. So like say you're working with a therapist or a skilled professional, exploring, like, are you doing compulsions? So they're not doing anything like that hurting you in some way. They're just like living their lives. And then if I'm saying, oh, like that's triggering me because I'm doing a bunch of compulsions around them, then that's something I'm going to change. But if by trigger, they're doing something to you, like actively, like, I don't know, like they like bully you or manipulate you in messages and you find that really triggering. But yeah, that's also because, yeah, it's understandably triggering, reminds you of painful experiences because they're doing something to you that's mean. Then yeah, could be useful to look at why you are in that relationship where somebody's doing that to you. So it really depends on what you mean about trigger there. The Alexa Jax. Oh, how can you tell whether you're dealing with an uncertainty that you should drop or whether identifying you are truly in danger? I wouldn't approach it like that. Because if we look at the compulsions, it's not going to make a difference whether the danger is real or not. But you can have a real danger and interact with it in a way that's proactive, in a way that's aligned with your values, that's not about trying to like control and subtract and fix and get caught up in magical thinking and compulsions. And so it's not about saying like, oh, this danger is real, therefore I'm going to do compulsions. And this danger is not real, so we're not going to do compulsions. So I would look at it really separate from that. Because the example I'll often use there is making cookies. We shift from going, oh, like, how do you know if like the cookies are going to burn or not burn? Like, how do you know if that worry is real? Well, no, like, cookies can burn. So what we're going to do is look at how do we make cookies well? How do we bake them well? And then we're going to follow the actions of that. So it's not about whether the worry is real or not. We kind of shift it to, hey, what's the thing we want to do well? Doing it well is going to include doing it in a way that is safe for us and is safe for those around us. But also, it's going to include getting delicious cookies. And so, yeah, it's kind of a different approach than doing the kind of fear first approach or problem first approach. Mud said, when do you use feelings as information? So I would go to what I was just sharing up there about cookies. Because yeah, feelings are things that could exist. I didn't. I didn't find that I was a skilled interpreter of feelings, and a lot of what I thought about feelings was wrong. And then the way I could see that was looking at, oh, when I follow the way I interpret these feelings, it creates all sorts of problems I don't like in my life. So maybe I'm not so good at using feelings as a guide, and I'm not good at interpreting them. And so, yeah, it was more useful to look at, like I was sharing there with the cookie example, what is it I want to make? And then looking at the actions that help create that. And in exploring that, then often I find we start to develop new ways of interacting with feelings, new ways of interpreting feelings, but also starting to understand where the feelings are useful, because we're looking at where we want to go rather than, again, that kind of problem first or, yeah, problem first, fear first approach, which is often what we're taking with feelings initially. The Angel Share, thanks for joining us. And so Mud, I see your question down below. You said, When can you make decisions based on your experience, which will be inextricably linked to your feelings? Yeah, so I don't know if I would agree, or yeah, I wouldn't agree with the inextricably part there. Yeah, absolutely. We have had experiences and we've had feelings with those experiences. But that doesn't mean necessarily that our interpretation of those feelings at the time was useful. Because also our interpretation of those feelings was influenced by experiences we've had or experiences we were having. And so, yeah, really, like an example I shared in my book, but I'll often bring up, I was talking to somebody about it this morning, was that idea that we're often like the person. So in my book, I showed the story of the guy who says he likes jumping in the water, but then hates getting wet. Will often say like, oh, I have like good feelings about this thing I want to do. But then we hate the outcome of it. We're like, oh, I have bad feelings about that. And just starting to see like even seeing those as separate is not helpful to us, but often where we're starting. Like we're often saying, I have good feelings about doing the compulsions. And I don't see them as compulsions. But then we recognize the outcome we really struggle with and don't enjoy. And so that's why I find at First Hour, the way we're categorizing and perceiving feelings can often like create a lot of challenges and problems for us. And so, yeah, it really helped me to take a step back. Like it helped me to, like the thing that was really useful to me was to recognize I do not understand feelings. The way that I've been categorizing and interpreting my feelings is wrong, right? I was often thinking that some feeling was good, but then it would create all sorts of problems in my life I didn't like. And so it didn't make sense to say like, oh, this feeling is good, when the outcome of it was like 100 times worse. I had to start to, put those together. But yeah, that started with saying, oh, like I probably don't understand my feelings very well, so I want to explore that and be open to seeing feelings differently in a way that was more useful to me. Daniel said, I go to talking therapy. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on it regarding mental fitness. Ah, well, I guess like I don't know enough from just like sharing it as talking therapy, like what you're doing, or what that means. But that's what I would look at. Like, what are the skills you're building? Uh, Talking can be a skill. Maybe you just want to go and talk about things. That can be a skill. Talk like and like legitimately like talking to somebody about difficult topics that we never talk about to anybody else. That could be a skill that you want to explore. But yeah, I always look at like what is the thing you want to build and grow. So thinking just like physical fitness. With any therapy practice, great, because somebody could say they're also doing like, oh, I'm doing ACT and ERP, but then also, are you then building skills together? Like they're giving you the homework that you're then making the changes to do the things, because also the therapist like cannot make those changes for you. Like they're always, regardless of who you work with. Regardless of whether it's psychoanalysis or ACT or DBT or ERP or everything in between. It is 100% still like physical fitness, and only we can make the changes, right? We have to actually make the changes in our lives. So yeah, whatever support helps you make those changes can be useful. But are you making the changes? If not, what's more useful to you? Sobek, yeah, he said, does depression also have compulsions to cut like OCD and anxiety? And can you tell a random example of a depression compulsion? If it exists, yes, absolutely. There are depression compulsions, and I would say the most obvious example is I do not feel like doing that thing, and so I'm not going to do it. I call it the depression spiral. So we start to avoid and control based around feelings we dislike, which of course, right, so we're essentially judging the feeling as a contamination. And what happens when we avoid things because of a contaminated feeling? We get more of it. And so we start to do less because of feelings, which creates more of the feelings, which leads to doing less. And then, of course, we're depressed because we're not living our lives. We're doing less, so we feel worse. But then feeling worse is how we've been kind of basing our actions. It's what we've been basing our actions around. So then we do even less, which makes us feel worse, and so on. So yeah, judging feelings as meaning you can't live your life is the depression compulsion. Sunshine Girl said, I have a feeling that I'm in the stage where I know that my symptoms are the product of my anxiety, but my body or nervous system still reacts with fear and panic. Yeah, a lot of compassion and a big hug to that, because even giving that to yourself, it's okay. When I was making changes, it also helped me to recognize the nervous system seems to take time to catch up. Like I'd be fine in my head with doing something, and I'd be like, oh, I'm not even anxious, I'm not having the intrusive thoughts, but my body would still be in fight or flight, like full on panic mode, as though the body can somehow see like, whoa, why are you doing this? This is a danger, let's get out of here. So yeah, it's really common. Being really kind to it, finding those ways to support ourselves proactively. Like it's not going to be hating on it. I'll often describe it as learning how to take a kid to the amusement park to ride roller coasters when that kid had an experience of falling out of a roller coaster. So we are going to take the kid. We're like the wildest babysitter ever, where we're just like, hey, kid who fell out of a roller coaster, we're going to the amusement park. So we're going to take the kid. We understand that the kid is going to freak out. And so that kid is inside of us. And we understand where that fear comes from. But we also understand that it's possible to enjoy riding the roller coaster, and that actually the people who are enjoying it are having the same experience. That experience, that rush, that experience of falling, but they're interacting with it differently. And so we're not going to get there by shouting at the kid, be like, don't be scared, you should like this. It's really about coming with a lot of gentleness and care, thinking, okay, I understand why this kid is afraid. I also understand it's possible to have a different experience with this activity. So how am I going to give a lot of care, a lot of support, a lot of gentleness, while bringing those feelings along with us? So it's, yeah, really this practice of commitment to values, but with a lot of care and a lot of support. And so, yeah, I hope you can be gentle with yourself and give yourself that support. Because, yeah, it's understandable that the body is afraid. Sobek said, I'm obsessed with content creation, and I really want to be a content creator. And I know pretty much about it, but I'm afraid of the judgments of friends and family. Any steps on that? Yeah, so like so many things, it's actually not about knowing. You see, like there's no content created by knowing about it. Just like it does not matter how much we know about mental health if we don't actually make the changes, if we don't actually practice the skills. So yeah, it can help, and that can sound strange at first, but I would say, yeah, like we don't know anything if we're not making the changes. Same with content creation. We do not know anything if we're not
like making the thing, whatever the creative thing is. It's writing, it's painting, it's pottery, it's dance, music, videos, whatever. We don't know it unless we're making it, unless we're doing it. And so, yeah, if it's something you want to explore, there's always going to be fears and things. Like even I see Daniel asked below a question about how do you go about people being rude and disrespectful to you, including friends. And so, yeah, again, like in general, judgments, things other people say, we approach it in the exact same way we handle the brain. Right? The brain is just a random guy shouting insults on the street. He's welcome to do that. And we're not going to get caught up in this debate and argument with it. And so it can be there. It needs to be there. Just like we'll see things like trolls dropping into the chat and things like that, right? Just like a brain. They could just like throw up random stuff the whole time. We don't have to attach meaning to it. It can be there. Yeah, we can send it on its way as we move along. But it doesn't need to be this thing that's going to occupy our time and energy. Pom Pom Kitty, I hope you're doing great. Thanks for dropping by. Oh, Lucas, here too. Hey, thanks for dropping by. I hope you're having a good weekend too. Caleb, it's great to see you as well. Thanks for being part of the membership channel and dropping on by. Oh, Caleb, yeah. You just shared about something related to what we were talking about, actually. So Caleb, you said here, I had comic friends ask for me to send some rough stand-up comedy jokes to them. Then they had no response to it. So I left upset and hurt and started to feel like I'm bad at it, wondering how to hit it with them values. With so many things. So across, whether we're talking, Sobek just asked about content creation, Daniel are asking about like insults, disrespect from friends and family. If we create some piece of content, it's really useful, I always find, to have that focus on giving instead of getting. So even if, so this is really important for anybody doing content creation, and I work with people on this a lot, is learning how to share on social media and celebrate the sharing and not look back to check who liked it. Definitely never, we'll say this to everybody watching today, you never ever have any need ever in your life at any point to look in your Instagram stories and see who looked at your story. If you were doing that, that is 1000% compulsion. We can share things as an expression of ourselves, and we don't need to get something. And then we're going to keep on sharing it. Oh no, Caleb, we're doing it right now. We can really, and like make that a practice. And that is weird at first. Like I would say it is in many ways an exercise to explore with lots of things, where even like a great one to practice is, sharing something about ourselves, not needing to get any particular reaction. Sometimes not sharing something, say in a meeting or something like that, where we feel, or even like hanging out with friends, I think I've got to say something smart right now, or I've got to say something that everybody likes. Be like, no, I'm just trying to get something then. Yeah, being here is enough. I don't have to do something. But then, when it comes to things like our art and the things we create, we just share it. We share it also because we don't know what's going to really connect with somebody. We don't know that, maybe when we shared something, the people who initially saw it didn't like it. But 6 months down the road, because we left it up, somebody's going to find it who it really resonates with. And they're going to share it with somebody that they know it will also really resonate with. And so we just engage in the practice and celebrate the practice and trust in building that. If we get caught up in the getting it can often kill a practice really early on because we share something and then we're like, that didn't do the thing I thought it would do. I'm going to give up on that. And then we walk away from it. So yeah, we practice giving. Yeah, Caleb. Yeah, there you go. That like practice of sharing. Yeah, it is true. We just give and then we give more. And I think that itself can bring up a fear. Because it might be like, oh, well, if I'm just giving, when am I going to get something? But then we can often see a fear there and then bring it back to celebrating what we're giving. Because then also it's really enjoyable for us because we've already been successful. If giving it was success, that's amazing. We can celebrate it. But yeah, if we have to get something, then we're often lacking. You're welcome, Caleb. And yes, I will see you in Mexico soon, next Saturday. Thank you for coming on by the workshop. I look forward to exploring in person in Mexico City. If anybody else didn't know about the Mexico City workshop, is just joining us, the link to register for the Mexico City workshop is in the chat. It is in person. It will not be online. You got to be here in Mexico City, but it'll be a lot of fun. We're going to take an afternoon to really get together and talk about things we want to grow and how do we grow those things while having human experiences. Ethan, you said, how can you deal with fears about having a mental disability? I found diffusing and accepting these thoughts hard and had a hard time focusing on real life with those feelings. So with any of right, it's a health anxiety fear, right? Or we could look at it as a control fear about living our lives, right? What if I get this thing I don't control that is going to disrupt my life? The problem is, if we start to spend time and energy on that, it's not an illness disrupting our life. It's us. If we spend our time and energy chasing certainty about some possible mental disability, we are the ones choosing to disrupt our lives and put it on hold. So when we notice a fear like that, we can instead recognize that we really care about living our lives. Recognize, this bothers me. Like, I'm afraid of this right now because I really care about living my life. So I'm going to go and live my life right now, rather than put my life on hold and create the very thing that I'm afraid of, which is a disruption to my life. So yeah, whenever we notice fears like that, it really helps to look at what do we value doing, to have those values identified in advance so it's easy to slip right into them, and go and live our lives. Sanjeev, yeah, he said, is it possible to get recovered without having any coach? Yeah, just, I don't know if you caught it, I was talking earlier, it's just like physical fitness. These actions, like no coach or therapist or whoever is going to make the changes for you. They have no special magic wand. You're simply connecting with somebody like a personal fitness trainer who's going to give you a workout plan, but the implementation of that plan depends on us. Nobody's going to make us exercise. Nobody's going to change the supports in our lives that help us make these changes and do these difficult exercises and activities. That's us. So yeah, we absolutely, just like we can build physical fitness on our own, because it's about changes and actions we do. Yeah, we can also recover on our own. If you're finding that challenging, because you keep getting caught up in maybe not choosing a workout plan that really pushes into the challenges or something like that, then it could be useful to work with somebody. But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, even when we're working with somebody, you're still the one who's going to make the changes. It's not about knowing some special thing. So there's nothing special the person is going to say that changes something. It's about us actually doing the sweaty, difficult work. Vegan Knowledge, welcome. Thanks for dropping by. Andre said, when we are doing day-to-day things, the OCD just keeps remembering us while we're doing it. How to go through the repetition of the mind without getting down? Does that ever stop? So I would approach that differently. It helped me to see that OCD is me doing compulsions around stuff. So the brain is welcome to do whatever. And that's its job. It's just it's a thought generating organ. It generates thoughts in the same way your gut generates shit. Like that's what the organ does. The problems arise if we start going, oh, like it shouldn't do that. But it's an organ, like it can do whatever. Those compulsions are things we do. So rather than seeing it as like, oh, the brain keeps throwing up these thoughts, will it ever stop? I'd be more curious about, like, why do you judge that? Right? If you keep judging it, like it shouldn't do this, I don't like that. That's a contamination. I want to clean it away. You're trying to find ways to clean it away. That's what actually keeps the cycle going. So yeah, what if it was okay for the brain to throw up any thoughts or feelings? Dylan, welcome. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for the donation and the continued support. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being a member. Yeah. I hope you're having a good weekend. And yeah, I really appreciate your kind words in the comments there and the donation. So yeah, thank you. I hope earlier we were talking about having an easy time with the brain. So I hope you are having an easy weekend and an easy week ahead with whatever the brain decides to throw up. Vegan Knowledge. So one of the biggest principles that you teach that has helped me is to continue to do what serves my values and served others, and not try to to do like a stop compulsion and erase thoughts. Yeah, we can have thoughts. Abira. So Abir, you said, can you do the videos for doubt on doubt OCD? Sometimes my OCD is like, what's the meaning of this? Yeah, so it can help to see that any of the videos would apply to that. Because that's just an uncertainty. And yeah, the brain throws up uncertainties and we don't have to do stuff with that. Same, and I see you just mentioned scrupulosity OCD down below. Yeah, same thing. There's going to be a doubt and uncertainty, an urge to control, and we can go and live our lives. Vegan Knowledge said, also another thing is when you mentioned that our brain is trying to help us figure out solutions to problems for a false sense of control. It really helped me to see it was working with me. Oh, you're welcome. It is useful to recognize our brains aren't like that, this like wacky, doing things out of nowhere. Oh, Vegan Knowledge, that's great. You're learning to not be so hard on yourself. Yeah, thanks for dropping by to share that. Pressure eat. Oh, he said, I've been in depression for, you can say that 4 months or so. And in between suffered from intrusive thoughts, feeling of panic, sleeping to escape, college situations, how to recover. Yeah, so pressure, I think it's useful to look at, so what does recovery mean? So rather than trying to get rid of some experience or even chase some kind of abstract concept, really looking at what are simple actions? I'll use the metaphor of a path usually. What are the simple actions on the path you want to take? And then just starting to gradually add those in. And those feelings can be there. Yeah, we don't have to make it this big, I'm going on this recovery adventure, must be successful, pressure journey thing. It can just be that, yeah, today I'm going to make breakfast for myself. And tomorrow I'm going to make breakfast for myself. And then the next day I'm going to make breakfast for myself. And I'm going to talk to one person I've never talked to before. And the next day I'll make breakfast and talk to a person I've never talked to before. And the next day I'm going to make breakfast, talk to a person I've never talked to before. And I'm going to do some tasks on this to-do list that I keep procrastinating on. So I'm going to do one task on that list that I've always been procrastinating on that's like really frustrating me. And then we just gradually build it up. Daniel, yeah, he said, what is the purpose of the workshop? So I'm doing it in collaboration with Talk Mexico. We have simultaneous translation, so it's happening in Spanish and English. We have translators there, and you'll have headsets, because some parts will be in Spanish and some parts will be in English. Namely, the parts where I'll be talking will be in English. And we're doing an exercise called the garden exercise. And that's where we explore what it is we want to grow. And we look at the actions that are going to help us grow it consistently, but the actions in terms of what do we want to change in the environment to support growing that? What do we need to get access to that's going to help us support growing that? And then what are those consistent actions we're going to do to water that plant? And then we look at how are we going to do that while having all of the stuff the brain can throw up. And so it's to leave the workshop with that plan of action for doing the things we want to do, growing the things we want to grow in life, rather than taking that approach where we first look at a problem and we're like, how do I clean away this problem? Yeah, it's just also a fun time or a great experience. I find, like, I've been doing these workshops. I've been doing this particular workshop this past summer and autumn. And I find, yeah, it's still the one of the biggest benefits that always comes from the workshop, because we do a lot of, drawing and sharing, is that people recognize in person that there are other people in the same city as them, other people in the same world as them, who have very similar experiences, and that these aren't strange. And so to also, like, we're going to a nice cafe, to have an experience also where this isn't like this kind of like private bad thing to hide away, but actually that these are topics we can talk about in a comfortable setting while enjoying some nice refreshments, I think is one of the elements that's really transformative for people, because it makes it just a normal part of life. And that's an important part of the workshop too. Yeah. Really bad drawings. You said, values feel a bit like a cleaning strategy still. Instead of fighting stuff I don't like, I focus on building stuff I care about, and I use values to do it. There's still a sense of using values to clean stuff away. Any thoughts? No, I don't have any thoughts on that. Like, that sounds like, sure, I don't know what it could be useful to look at what you're doing around that, if that makes sense. Like, there I'd say, like, so what if it feels like a cleaning strategy? Like, what is the importance you're attaching to that? So particularly around feelings, because think of it like when we're doing compulsions, that also often feels good. It feels like we're doing something useful. So yeah, typically if we're starting to make changes, that feels wrong. But also, I'd be curious what the fear is there. So yeah, like this desire to get some kind of right feeling about it. Yeah, like why? Because what do you fear will happen if there's some kind of wrong feeling about it? Or there's this like, it feels like I'm cleaning something away. Yeah, so what? What's the problem there? that could be useful to explore. Vincenzo said, by letting those emotions and feelings go by not focusing on thoughts, I've overcome OCD. It is really so easy yet so difficult. Yeah, thank you for everything. Yeah, it is really, yeah, not complex, right? But then actually doing it can be really challenging. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Vincenzo. Yeah, it's great you're exploring the skills that are helping you go where you want to go. So enjoy those steps ahead. Change for better. I said, is the point, actually, oh, I'm going to read the start because this is kind of actually funny. You said, small question. Is the point of mindfulness and meditation in general to illustrate that thoughts are fleeting and what matters is what's happening right now in this moment? So I think for thousands of years, people have been writing about the point of mindfulness and meditation. So it is not a small question, and maybe not one I would say we need to answer. Like this is kind of what I was touching on there with really bad drawings. Yeah, why do you need to put a answer on it? And so I guess, but this would also be share like the kind of like my personal experience of why I wouldn't go for that, but is because I practice meditation in a Zen tradition. And so the focus there would be on the practice, not to give it some kind of purpose, like the practice is the purpose, but also that it wouldn't be about trying to see thoughts in some kind of particular way. That it would just be about the practice. So yeah, there again, I'd be like, yeah, what if you don't have to get an answer for that? Would an answer change anything about your practice? And we are going to wrap up soon. It's 1:52. Let's see if we can get through all of the questions before we finish. Andre said, how to change my judgment about thoughts effectively. I feel like I'm trying, but the brain keeps looking for stuff to be fearful of. Yeah, one of the ways that can be fun to start exploring thoughts that you like. So not necessarily seeing it as just about fear. Because a lot of the times too, a thought will pop up that we like and we're like, yeah, that's a great idea. I want to go think about that. And so we'll also then spend time in our heads around things we judge as good. And so yeah, it could be useful to maybe expand how you're exploring non-judgment around brain stuff, to do it around any brain stuff and see what you discover there. Liz, thank you for the suggestion and for everybody else coming to the Mexico workshop to try out the balloon ride. We will not jump out of the balloon. Yeah, Andre, you said there, yeah, my if X then Y is if I have an intrusive thought, then I will never recover. Yeah, so it can really help to see that recovery is going to be about actions that we do with any thoughts. So actually, we want to have thoughts we would have judged as intrusive in the past, because seeing them as intrusive is about us either doing a compulsion, and dropping that is going to be part of building mental health and fitness skills. And we are gonna wrap up shortly. Like, I think, oh, momentarily. Maybe let's see. Momentarily. And with that, we're gonna wrap things up. Sobek, yeah, asking the question again. Does it make it less of more of the more of the? It's you're checking for reassurance. So re-asking the question to check for reassurance, does it increase the likelihood of me engaging in the reassurance checking? But what I can say is that yeah, we have a chance to head out into our days. So let's go and do that. We have a week ahead of ourselves where we can be nice to ourselves and compassionate and extend the same to other people around us and in the world as well. So let's go and do that. Keep in mind that idea of baking cookies well. It's not about, like, I've got to control this thing or I've got to clean away this bad thing. We look at what are the actions of doing the thing well. And while we do that thing, we're going to bring along any human experiences. And they can be there. So let's do that. Thank you, everybody, so much for stopping by the live stream today. Thank you, everybody, for your donations, members who stopped by, members who didn't stop by but are part of the membership channel. I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for sharing about your human brains today and sharing about the journey. Enjoy growing the things you care about. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great day.